Well, hello, everyone. It is Monday again. It rolls around really quickly, and we want to welcome you to the Monday Mindset. I'm here with, looks like lots of people joining us on the giant platform, some on Facebook and LinkedIn. We've got Chris from Nashville, and goodness sake, let me look here. Melody from Naples, Florida, Margaret from Louisiana, Julie from South Dakota. Welcome.
Everywhere. We're
Yeah,
global. I mean, that's all US, but we're gonna
well,
act like it's global.
that's right. Hello, Kevin. How are you?
Good morning. Fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's going to be a really great weather week. Well, at least the first few days here in Oklahoma City. So I'm excited that it's
It
getting
is.
warm. I love the warmth.
It is. We were walking home yesterday with our boys, and our youngest, our 5-year-old, he goes, "Dada, it's starting to feel like spring." Like, it is, bud. It is. It's starting to feel, which is good news and bad news. One, it's great because the weather warms up. Bad news, that means tornado season here in Oklahoma. But I'm ready for some spring weather. That's for sure.
Me too. Me too. Well, tell me, what have you been reading lately? Anything good?
Lots of good books. I'll be honest, I struggled reading last year.
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't say like I struggled, like I'm capable of reading. I can read real good. But I didn't read as much last year as I typically did. And I don't know if that was a pandemic thing or what. But so I'm trying to get back on the book train because I do love reading. Here are a few that I'm in the midst of. One is by a friend of mine named Cody Royal. He is the head coach of Canada's Australian football rules team. I'm not sure what I just said.
I don't know what you just said, but
Australian League football, Australian rules football, it's a real thing.
Okay.
But he's the head coach of that in Canada. Great guy. He's got a great new book out called The Tough Stuff. It's 7 hard truths about being a head coach. And he just wrestled with some really difficult things that head coaches face that nobody really talks about. So really great book from a leadership perspective. Reading a book called Gentle and Lowly by Dane Ortland. That's really good. The Common Rule, Habits of Purpose for an Age of Distraction. So trying to help us keep focused when this guy is constantly going off. And one of my favorite reads lately is called A Failure of Nerve, Leadership in the Age of the Quick Fix by Edwin Friedman, not sure how to pronounce his last name, but a really brilliant read on leadership and helping families and teams and organizations get better. So
wow,
that's been on my Kindle list lately. I've been working through some of those.
Wow. So you're a multi-book reader at a time kind of guy.
Yeah, as with everything, right? It's hard for me to focus on one thing. And so if I can kind of move back and forth between books. And I've also learned, and this is new to me, this may be normal for other people, but I've realized that a lot of people, I think they don't like sit down and read a full book. They just kind of scan through and find what's interesting. I'm like, oh, I never knew that was really possible. So I feel like I'm going to miss something. I had this severe FOMO. What if these key points aren't what I think are the key points, right? Like, what if I miss something?
What if there's a golden nugget in there and I missed it?
Yeah, that's right. So, but I'm learning to just read through books, and if I stop finding value in them, it's okay to put it down at that point. You can move on to something else. So that's what I've been up to in the book world.
Nice. Well, I did that really for many reasons, but also I wanted to remind everybody about this little nugget right here. This is Kevin DeShazo's latest book. And I'm telling you, it is so, so good and inspiring. If you have kids, read this to them. If you're a coach out there, even with Little League or whatever, read this. You see how thin it is? It's I don't know how many pages, but not that many.
It's a 30-minute read.
Yeah, it's a 30-minute read. It's 54 pages. So this will inspire you for really anyone. If you have a team out there of any kind, it's a great read and a great discussion book. So I encourage you to do that. Keep chopping wood. You've had a lot of collegiate type sports, like coaches buying this in bulk, right? And
yeah, it's honestly been really overwhelming to see, because you never know, right? Like, who's going to buy the book, what's going to happen with it. And so I've spoken to high school teams, to elite college teams, to construction organizations, to healthcare organizations, to law enforcement, to power companies. I mean, it's been really interesting and encouraging just to see how many people have kind of embraced that message.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, yeah, it's a good one. And also a tip here from Julia. She's saying when we were talking about books, she heard a tip to read the table of contents, first chapter and last chapter, and that you'll pretty much have it covered there. So that's probably a pretty good way to do it.
Well, to that point, Julia, sorry, there's a great app called Blinkist, Blink-ist.
Oh, okay.
And it's, thank you, Amy Mast. Appreciate you. By the way, if you didn't watch or listen to her Personality Yoda last week with Steve Cockram, make sure you go check that out on the Giant platform. Well worth your time. Incredible job, Amy. No surprise. There's a great app called Blinkist, and it's like audio cliff notes for a book. And so it breaks a book down into what whoever created the app or whatever decides are the 9 key points or the 5 key points into 2 to 3 minute blinks. And so I found that a really, really good way to work through books, especially when driving. I can read 10 books on a long drive. So highly recommend an app called Blinkist. And there's another one I just downloaded called Uptime, which is very similar. It takes really popular books and breaks them down into bite-sized nuggets. So again, if you're looking to get the most out of a book in the least amount of time, those are some apps that are helpful, or just read shorter books like Keep Chopping Wood.
Like chopper, yeah. Great tip. Great. That's good. Well, it's almost mowing season here for me. We have 5 acres, and that's my time to audio book it. So it takes us about 2.5 to 3 hours to mow our acreage. So I can just put my headphones in and listen to books. So that's coming. So enough about us and books. We have something to talk about today. So I'm going to kind of manage here. I'm going to look at the chat and see who has questions today as you're talking, but let's get started. What do you want to cover today?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm thinking out loud, so this may be a bad idea. I'll let Tracy shut it down if it's awful. It might be fun at some point in the future just to do a full Monday mindset of Q&A. So announce it well ahead of time. You guys send us your questions, and we just do some Q&A, do some live Q&A. So we'll kind of tuck that one away to think about that for a future date. But today I want to talk about this idea of mental preparation. All right. So think about if you're going to run a marathon, you are going to physically train for a marathon, right? You're going to start by running a mile if you haven't ever run a mile, and then maybe a 5K and then a 10K. You're going to work your way up, preparing to be able to run a marathon, but not just physically running. You're also going to be preparing from a nutritional standpoint, right? You're going to be changing your diet, maybe changing some of your sleep patterns so that you can have optimum performance and actually be able to run that marathon. Or let's say you have a big presentation at work, and let's say it's 2 or 3 weeks away. You're going to get prepared for that. You're going to make sure your slides are exactly how they should be. You're going to run through it 2 or 3, 4, 5, 10 times, depending on your personality, rehearsing it, making sure you've covered every possible scenario in that room, in that presentation, so that you can be at your best when it comes time to deliver. Or maybe it's a keynote. Same thing, right? You're getting ready to be on stage, but you've rehearsed, you've practiced, you've recorded yourself. Maybe you've even gone to the room to walk around to see like what's the setup of the room like, who's my audience, who am I talking to, right? We typically prepare for things in life. We don't just show up and hope for the best, except that's exactly what we do mentally, right? We do all this work preparing our skills, preparing like to do the job, to do the task that's ahead of us. But what happens when you get up, right, to the starting line on race day? And not that marathons are usually races, right? You're mostly just trying to complete it. But what happens when you get to that starting line and all of a sudden mentally you start to freak out? I can't do this. I'm not ready. This is too much. It's not going to happen. Or you get to mile 10 or mile 15 or mile 20, and same thing. I'm too tired. I'm not going to make it. I can't do this. Is harder than I thought. Or you get into that presentation and somebody asks a question that you didn't expect, or the room's just a little bit different than what you thought it was going to be. Or you stand up there getting ready to speak, and all of a sudden mentally you look like, oh, this crowd's bigger than I thought. And you were so ready. You were so prepared, but then you get to the moment and your mind takes you out. My dad, we used to play golf when I was little, and a couple times a year he would play in a pro-am up in Iowa. It's called the Quad Cities Classic. I think now it's the John Deere Classic, or maybe it's the Quad Cities Classic now. It's changed names a few times. And the pro-am part of it is the Wednesday before a golf tournament, right? Golf tournaments are Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Well, on Wednesday, 4 random dudes play with one of the pros. And so my dad would go play in this pro-am, and a couple times I got to go caddy for him. And you end up always, not always, but you end up usually most of the time playing with a golfer that you've never heard of. And all of a sudden you're out on the golf course, and these guys, I mean, they are unbelievable, right? These are elite golfers. You've never heard of them, but they're unbelievable. And you're thinking, who is this guy? Why has he never won? Like how he is, I've never seen a golfer this good. He's never even made a cut. Well, it has nothing to do with their physical skill, right? Because when it comes to the game of golf, when it comes to whatever, they have what it takes. But as soon as they step on that first tee mentally, anxiety kicks in, stress kicks in, pressure kicks in. And it doesn't matter how prepared they are for the game, it's how prepared are they mentally. Right? You can have all the right tools, but if you don't have the right tool in between your ears, you're in trouble. And so what does it look like for you to mentally prepare for the day, to mentally prepare for a run, to mentally prepare to get better? That's how you actually make progress. Because your skills, your talent is rarely what's going to take you out in life, right? There's always room to grow, right? Whatever your skill is, if you're a teacher, if you're in distribution, if you're in oil and gas, if you're in manufacturing, if you're in healthcare, whatever it is, you can always get better at your actual day-to-day job. And that's where a lot of our focus goes. We go to conferences for that. We go to more trainings for that. We go get more certifications for that to keep improving our skill level, which is good and necessary, right? You always want to be improving. You never want to get complacent. But what are you doing to actually invest in your mindset, to be developing your mental skills to complement those physical skills? Because it's our lack of mental preparation that ultimately ends up taking us out. We get into that moment, it's like, this is different than I thought it was going to be. And we shut down and we're not ready for it. I get to work with athletes all the time. And it's like, there are, again, unbelievable athletes who can throw a football 60 yards on a tight spiral, who can make every shot on a basketball court, who can hit every shot on a golf course. But as soon as they step on the court or the field, they're not ready. It's their mind that always takes them out. And so we have to be doing those mental reps, right? We have to be doing that mental preparation, like to visualize yourself in that moment. What could possibly go wrong, right? To try to anticipate every scenario. Now, you're not going to. We're going to miss, and that's okay. But I talk with teams all the time. You have to anticipate adversity. It's coming. Well, if you anticipate it, you're not going to be surprised by it. Anticipate having those butterflies before your speech, before your run, before your performance, right? That's okay. Those are normal. But when you don't expect it, it takes you out. And so to visualize yourself in that space, to visualize questions that people could ask, to visualize what the room looks like, and to visualize yourself doing it well, to visualize yourself overcoming it. Right? I had a coach one time. It's like, hey, when you're on the free throw line, he's like, you're doing your free throw routine. He's like, take a couple dribbles. He's like, close your eyes, look down. He goes, and just picture yourself making those free throws. All right? Block out the crowd. Block out whatever's going on in the game. You have to mentally visualize yourself making it. What that's doing is stirring up confidence. It's like, no, I've got this. I can do this. And so again, if you've got to give a speech to your team, visualize yourself giving it, visualize you having confidence, visualize your team receiving it well, and you're going to have a much better chance for success. And so thinking through for us, like, what does it look like for you? What is your role? What's the big challenge that you have coming for you this week? Maybe it's just simply to be more present in a meeting, right? You have a difficult meeting with your team. Well, visualize that meeting going a certain way. Visualize the people in that meeting and start thinking about them as their best, right? Instead of walking in, we kind of talked about this last week, instead of walking in thinking, oh man, these people are going to be negative, they're against me. Now think about the good things about those people. Think that they're for you. And mentally prepare yourself for this situation. You've got to go through the mental reps. That's usually where the gap is between where we are and where we want to be. It's that gap in mental performance. Mental strength comes from mental performance, just like anything else, right? You don't just show up and run the race. You're strong and able to run the race because you've practiced, because you've prepared for it. Well, you're not going to have that mental strength, that mental grit, that mental fortitude if you've not prepared to be in those situations where you're going to be challenged, where something could go unexpected. And so this idea and this practice of mental preparation, of visualizing your day, visualizing your meeting, visualizing the challenge, and walking through how you would respond in those situations so that when it does happen, I'm like, I'm good. I knew something was going to go crazy in this meeting. I knew this guy was not going to throw the pitches that I actually expected him to. Right? I knew it would be a little bit different. I was ready for it. Right? So that you walk into that room, so that you walk into that moment prepared and with confidence and ready to take on any challenges that you actually face. And so again, this idea of mental preparation, what does it look like for you to mentally prepare for the challenges that you are going to face throughout the day, throughout the week, and especially as it relates to a goal that you're trying to accomplish or achieve, anticipating the challenges along the way so that you're mentally ready whenever those challenges pop up. So that's kind of my thoughts for the day, is just this really this key thing that we kind of ignore too often of mental preparation, right? And we've got to, it's you hear this phrase all the time in sports, like you don't have to get ready if you stay ready. Right? It's like when things happen, like, no, I'm ready. I practiced for this. I was prepared for this. It's kind of the same thing. It's like life's going to throw some things at you. Are you prepared, not just with your skill, but are you prepared mentally for it?
Mm. That's really good. And we have a great question coming in, kind of something I had on my mind as well as you were talking. Misty's asking, do you think you can over prepare? Like, can you mess it up for yourself because you've, over prepared?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is tough because there's no like magic formula for this. But it's kind of like studying for a test, right? If you remember in college or maybe in high school where you'd pull an all-nighter and you're cramming, well, at some point you're either ready or you're not, right? Like you keep studying and studying and studying and studying. It's like, and you're trying to prevent failure. It's like, the material and you're actually probably doing more harm than good by continuing to go over. It's like, just go get some rest. You'll be much better. Like you've studied enough. What's actually going to hurt you now is like you're not rested. You're not at that point. It's that you're not physically prepared for the test, right, or for whatever it may be. And so I think there is this. That's a really great point from Misty. Like there's a real balance in making sure that you don't over prepare, don't overthink it, don't overanalyze. Like that's actually extremely costly. There's a guy named John Acuff who's an author. He's coming out with a book in a few months called Soundtracks. And the idea is that most people spend way too much time thinking, right? We overthink everything and it's really costly. We overthink, we overanalyze, we over-prepare. And at some point you just have to like talk better to yourself, say, no, I'm good. I'm ready. I don't need to prepare anymore. I've done it enough, and be confident in your level of preparation.
Good. So, I'm sure many of the people watching today know a lot about the 5 voices. So can you tell us anything about the different voices and maybe what that's like for preparation? I know for a guardian, I'm a guardian. So for me, I'm really going to, make my checklist, make sure all my ducks are in a row. But I know there are other personalities that may not need quite as much as I do.
Yeah, great point. And as a connector, I don't like preparation. Right. Like, so full disclosure, like I'm speaking to me on this because I've convinced myself, because I'm a connector, I can just walk into any situation and be fine. Whether it's, if Tracy were to say, hey, talk for 30 minutes on this, I'd say, okay. And I may be wrong for 30 minutes, but I'd feel pretty confident in my ability to talk about whatever topic for 30 minutes. But if I were to say that to Tracy or to a guardian, to a nurturer, to some other personalities, maybe some creative, they'd say, well, no, like I need 30 minutes or an hour or a day, maybe a week to prepare, to research, to practice, to write it down. And whereas other personalities, maybe a pioneer, connector, like we're okay kind of on the fly. So you have to know yourself to lead yourself a little bit. Again, I know that I need to prepare more than I think I do, right? I don't, otherwise it looks like I'm unprepared. It looks like I just walked in and just started talking and didn't. And what that does is gives people the perception that I don't care. What, you didn't prepare for this? Like, if it's 5 voices, for example, well, I could give 5 voices in my sleep. And I remember having a conversation with someone. They're like, so you didn't even know what you were going to talk about before you came in. You just showed up. I'm like, well, I mean, I know 5 voices. I knew what I was talking about, but that doesn't mean I specifically prepared. And they were like, oh, so you just don't care about us. No, that's not it at all. But that was a moment. I'm like, no, it's fair.
Mm.
Because it comes across. So it's like, no, so then this was early on with doing some giant stuff. It's like, no, I need to really think about who I'm, 5 voices is 5 voices, but I need to really be intentional to prepare to talk to 5 voices with a group of 50-year-old senior executives or 20-year-old student athletes, or coaches or administrators. So to level up that intentionality, to be prepared, that doesn't mean hours and hours. It just means being more intentional with the way that I think about how I prepare and deliver. Some personalities, they're gonna go really deep with preparation, and probably need to. So a guardian, a nurturer, I would say probably need to prepare less than they think they do, because your nature is to prepare, which is going to lead to, I think, over preparation. And so so certain personalities have to figure out what that mix of preparation. No, we're all going to prepare in different ways, but do you need to prepare a little more than you typically do, or a little less than you typically do, to give yourself that permission and that potential to actually succeed in that moment?
Mm. That's good. It's making me think also, if you're married to someone with a different voice than you, to not expect them to prepare in the same way you do or as much as you do, and it's okay. And I think, as a parent, it's the same. You need to think about that with your kids. You might be getting on to them for something that naturally might come easy to them, and maybe they don't need to stay up till midnight getting their whatever together. Maybe they're just really good at that, and so it's a good reminder.
Well, and it gives that perception that they're, for me, it was given the perception that I don't care. In certain situations, like with studying, it could give the perception that they're lazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, they're not. They're ready. They know it. They don't need to, like I said, stay up till midnight studying or preparing. Like they're ready. In every kid we have, we got 3 boys. They're all going to be different when it comes to those things. So some of them, our oldest may not need to stay up, and like his mind just may operate in such a different way, where like he's been so engaged in class and got notes, and so he doesn't need to study as much. Our middle son, he's going to learn a different way. He may need to put a little more effort into preparing for a test. Doesn't mean he's any more or less intelligent, but he's going to have to operate in a different way for a test. And so to know how people operate, so that we're not incorrectly judging them based on how they prepare or what we perceive as their level of preparation.
Yeah, that's good.
And same thing for athletes or anything else, right? Again, some of them need more reps to be ready. Some of them need to be there an hour, 2 hours before a game, whatever it may be. Like that's what they need to get ready. Others don't, right? And if they perform well in practice, like don't judge when they get there as ready or not, right? Yeah. So to know each person so that we can lead them accordingly.
Yeah, and I mean, the School of Hard Knocks will teach you and teach people, oh, wait, I guess I should have prepared a little bit more. And so we learn and we adjust. And like with our kids, it's like, well, yeah, you probably could have prepped a little bit more of that. Yeah, I was embarrassed in front of my class, so next time I'll know I need to do better. So we've got quite a few things coming here on the chat, so I'm just kind of going to read some of them. Melody, first of all, said that she uses prayer and rest. That's how she combats her overthinking. Yep. Laura said, this is so helpful. I choked when my slides stuck on a presentation last week. Any tips on how to work visualization reps into a schedule?
Oh, this is good. And this has been a huge thing over the last year, right? Like with COVID, because I can't tell you how many times Zoom hasn't worked. Keynote hasn't opened up for me. Yes. I have who knows how many presentations on my computer. And this has actually happened several times in the last month. I will go to open a presentation to give it, and I'll get the alert, like, this is not on your computer. I'm like, yes, it is. I used it maybe yesterday. And so part of it is being able to just, like, one, take a breath, right? It's not the end of the world. 2, make sure you know your material. And so that, like, I try to be so ready now that I don't need the slides. I can talk, I can be ready, or maybe have a secondary option. Say, man, because sometimes you need the slides, depending on the content. So you know what? Technology is not working today. This is stuck. I want to make sure you guys get the best, and to get the best for that, you actually do need the slides. So I'm going to go a different direction today. So always have a plan B. So A, you look prepared because you are prepared. And it looks like you've really thought through for these people. I know we're going to do this, but I want to make sure I serve you the best possible way. And this is going to be a better topic based on what's currently going on, right? Based on the fact that I don't have access to my slides, you guys wouldn't get the best, and you deserve the best. So I'm going to do this instead. And part of it's just being human, right? They're not thinking anything bad about you, because we've all been in those. We've all seen it. We've all seen it happen where technology messes up, and you never think, "Gosh, this dumb speaker. Wow. I mean, they weren't ready for this." Like, you never think they're thinking, "Oh no, I feel so bad for her. I feel so bad for him." That's what they're thinking.
Yeah.
Like, they're actually for you. They're excited to hear you. It's our own internal negative voice kind of goes off like, "Oh man, they think I'm the worst. They think I'm a fraud. They think I don't know what I'm doing." Nobody's thinking that. So to take a breath, be kinder to yourself. And it may be hey, give me a couple minutes. I'm going to try to get this to work. And if not, then go into your plan B.
That's really good. It's really good. Margaret says, this is very helpful. I've been doing this with presenting workshops, core groups, and it has helped. One thing you said, which I will implement, is to visualize challenges that may come up. I'm a nurture creative, so I do prepare quite a bit. Another challenge for me is finding that balance with preparation.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep. I think too, to prepare for the good and the bad, right? To anticipate some difficult questions that could throw you off guard. Because what if, like, anticipate someone, if you're going to lead a team session or do a keynote with some Q&A, or maybe you're going into a job interview or whatever it may be, where there's going to be some back and forth, anticipate them challenging you. Anticipate them not agreeing or not being fully like on board with what you prepared or what you presented. And if your tendency, like me, is to take that as a personal attack, right? If you're a feeler, if you're a connector, if you're a nurturer, if you're a creative connector, we're going to take that personally. And so, like, no, they're not attacking me. They're just trying to get more clarity. And so anticipate people challenging your questions, challenging your material, your point of view, and visualize how you would respond to that.
Yeah. I know last week I kind of did this, probably over prepped, but I ended up making a hard copy for a one pager to hand out just in case the presentation didn't work out, and it's still just sitting there in my folder. But in just in case, that's just one tip I would suggest.
Yeah, if you're in person, that's a great move, right? Because you may know your slides, but if you can give them printed material, then it's like, hey, I'm not going to have slides, but what I gave you, we'll supplement it just fine. I still know the material, and let's roll.
Yeah, absolutely. Melody says, great reminders. Thank you for honoring each person's uniqueness and being okay with tech hiccups. No judgment. I feel the same way. Hey, put yourself in their shoes. Anytime now, I'm like probably overly gracious because I know that feeling, right?
There's nothing worse. I mean, it's bad.
And then Margaret says, my PowerPoint didn't open for me, though it was there. So I had to quickly pivot and just share the knowledge with a hard copy of the slide to show the group. Yeah, absolutely. And I think people appreciate the genuineness when that happens. So
that's right. And again, and it's you're actually endearing yourself to them, right, by the way that you respond to that. Because I've seen people like lose their mind in that situation. And they totally undermine where it went from, oh man, this is tough, I feel so bad for them, to like, wow, I don't want to listen to them because of how they respond. It's like, I actually don't want to hear what they had to say. They've gotten so negative. They've kind of freaked out too much. And so to be able to navigate that situation, to say, even, to be able to laugh at yourself, make jokes about technology. Again, people are rooting for you. They're not thinking anything bad about you. That can go the other way depending on how you handle it. That can be a moment where you massively increase your influence, and your message lands even better than it was going to before. And so I think, again, just to prepare for those things, I think the idea is that preparation builds confidence.
Absolutely.
Right? Because when it happens, you've already in your mind, like, oh, I thought this might happen, so I was ready for this. Same thing, like, again, my kids with baseball, they take tons and tons and tons of reps with the bat and pitching, so that when they get up there, there's a confidence of, I know how to swing a baseball bat. I know how to throw a pitch. I know how to catch a ball, right? They can do that. They're ready. They're prepared. They're confident in their ability to do that, but also taking mental reps to be confident no matter what happens when they're at the plate or if they're on the mound. Hey, I can handle it. Not only can I do the baseball part of it, but I can mentally handle whatever comes at me. That preparation builds confidence in the moment, because adversity is going to hit. And it's, what do you do when that hits, right? Like, are you overcome by the moment, or do you overcome the moment? And that's going to come down to your mental strength, which comes down to your mental preparation.
Absolutely. As always, very practical and useful information. Just letting all of you know who are not on the Giant platform right now, those of you on Facebook and LinkedIn, that If you go to giant.tv/culturewins, you can sign up for a free account on our platform, which is full of, first of all, it has all of these Monday Mindset episodes that have been moved into a series on Ascend, on the popular series there that you'll see. And so those are helpful, but then there's tons, hundreds and hundreds of series and episodes about all kinds of things, self-awareness and how to build healthy teams. And there's things about marriage and parenting. So it's super useful. So go to giant.tv/culturewins, sign up for a free account. And that's just kind of our gift to you. So Kevin, any last words?
We're going to end with a new segment, Tracy, to the Monday Mindset. I have one question for you. Oh. What are you excited about right now?
Ooh, you mean work-wise or just in life in general?
And for those listening, tuning in, like throw in the comments, like what are you excited about right now? We want to end thinking about what we're excited about.
Yeah, I'm excited here at work. We have the headquarter team here has been working on, our tech team has been working on some upgrades to our platform. And every time that happens, it's like, it blows your mind because you think, oh, it was already really good. And then we've got just some really neat features coming. I can't tell you what they are yet, but they're coming and it's going to be really good. So if your team is not on Invincible yet, you need to get your team on there. Even if you just have a small team of 4 or 5 people.
That's right.
That'll work. Or if your whole organization wants to get every team on the platform, it's the quickest, most practical way to get your organization healthy that I know of.
That's right.
How about you? What do you look forward to?
What am I excited about? Excited about baseball season for our boys. We just finished basketball and now it's baseball season. So that's always fun. I love baseball season, being outside, just something about, maybe it's nostalgic. I don't know, but something about baseball season I always enjoy. And then from a work side, we are, with Culture Wins, we're building out something using the platform for student athletes and coaches in the collegiate athletic space that I think is going to be really, really significant. So I'm excited to continue building on that.
I'm excited for that. That's great. Well, very good. Let's see if anybody in here in the chat. Let's see. Laura Amir says, weekend away with James in the Lake District in June. That's something to look forward to for sure. Melody says she's excited about a 7 to 10 minute talk this weekend to be prepared, relaxed, and relatable to hearers. Well, this was timely for Melody. So Melody, hope it goes well. So yeah, super, super great information. Thanks, Kevin, as always. And we will see you all here next time. Next Monday, same time, same place. Always a great way to start the week. So thanks, everybody. Have a great week. Thanks, Kevin.
See you guys.